Let's begin by talking about coping strategies. Coping strategies are helpful ways of dealing with an uncomfortable or an unbearable situation. You can also use coping strategies to deal with uncomfortable and unbearable emotions that you are feeling as well. Now, with coping strategies and with everything else in life, they can be helpful, but they can also be harmful. Now, coping strategies will be helpful in order to improve a situation, or it can be helpful by helping a person handle that situation. Same can be said about improving an emotion or helping a person handle that emotion. However, coping strategies are harmful because um, they make sometimes they can make the situation worse, or they can prevent a person from being able to handle the situation later on. Um, Now, they can prevent the person from being able to handle the situation if they use the coping strategies very, very often. People will tend to um, ignore the situation or the emotion and just use the coping strategy to get through it. Like I mentioned, coping strategies can vary depending on the person. Defense mechanisms are a common coping strategy that most people have. Now, defense mechanisms can help you protect yourself from very difficult feelings. However, if you rely on a defense mechanism too much, you probably may not be able to express your true feelings and will rely on those defense mechanisms rather than expressing those feelings and in a positive way. There are six common defense mechanisms in total that we will be discussing in these notes. For your quick right, number one, I want you to pause this video and answer the following question. If you don't express your true feelings, when can that be a problem for you? Please give me an example. Now, the first defense mechanism we are going to use is called denial. Denial is refusing to recognize either an emotion or a problem. For example, if someone's parents are divorcing, or or the person is being broken up with, or getting bad grades, their response to each of these things is to act as if it doesn't bother them, or to pretend that nothing is wrong. It's almost as if you are avoiding the problem or the situation or the emotion that is happening in their lives. For example, we take a look at the cartoon character Hobbs down here on the right hand side. He says it's not denial. I'm just very selective about the reality I accept. What he's trying to say is that he is only accepting what he wants to accept, and he is not accepting what he doesn't want. Denial is exactly that. You accept what you think that you want, and then you're going to pretty much not accept what is actually going on. Now, the next defense mechanism we are going to talk about is compensation. Compensation basically is making up for a weakness either in your life or a weakness of yours by excelling in another area of your life. For example, you have the example of Timmy Turner down here from the Fairly Odd Parents. He is getting very bad grades. However, he is making up for it in the area of athleticism. As you can tell on the right hand side, he has hit the gym and he is bulked up as a result of making up for the bad grades. Another example could be when you make up for bad grades, you may become a good musician. Okay, you may be a good cheerleader, or if you don't have good grades, you may become a good actor in drama class, for example. Now, the next defense mechanism we're going to take a look at is rationalization. Rationalization pretty much is just making excuses for the actions or feelings. For example, you take something that doesn't belong to you from someone who is rich, thinking that it's okay because they can't afford it. So you're pretty much coming up with an excuse for an action that you are doing, which you know is wrong. The example of the cartoon I have down here, the character here says he failed because the teacher hates him. So pretty much he's making up an excuse for the action that resulted in the F. What could have been the reason why he got an F was maybe he didn't study. Okay. Maybe he didn't do the work leading up to the history test, but he then just uses an excuse to put the blame on someone else rather than himself. Now for your quick write number 2, please pause the video and answer the following question. Going out to a party and having fun the night you find out a family member has passed away is an example of which defense mechanism? Denial, compensation, or rationalization? Please explain your answer. Now, the fourth defense mechanism is reaction formation. What this is pretty much behaving in one way opposite to the way you feel. The example that we have right here in the cartoon of Arnold and Helga from Hey Arnold, you learn through this cartoon that Helga secretly loves Arnold. However, she behaves in the opposite way towards Arnold by picking on him and being a bully. Okay, so she behaves in one way opposite to the way that she feels. She bullies him, which would be the opposite of the way of showing him that she loves him. Another example would be treating someone you strongly dislike in an excessively friendly manner in order to hide your true feelings. The next defense mechanism we are going to use or look over is projection. Now, projection pretty much is putting your own feelings onto others. The example of the cartoon down here, you have a mother who hates herself for whatever reason. However, she puts her feelings of hate towards herself onto her daughter by telling her, I hate you. Another example of that would be your coach doesn't play you because you think that the coach didn't teach you well enough. You think the coach doesn't like you, when in reality, you probably don't like yourself, but you are putting that onto someone else to justify or deal with that emotion. Now, the next defense mechanism people use to deal with emotions or with unbearable situations is regression. Now, regression is returning to immature behaviors to express emotions. An example of that, if we take a look at the cartoon, the teen on the left-hand side, she's dealing with her, for example, she's dealing with her emotions or her situations like a teen should in a mature way. However, there may come a point where she cannot bear the emotion or the situation that she's going to deal with it like a child would. An example of that would be you are mad, but you yell, scream, and slam doors, and you act like a young child. Okay, that is one example of the defense mechanism of regression. So rather than dealing with the emotion or the situation in a positive way, a person can go ahead and, even a grown adult, let me add that, even a grown adult can go ahead and deal with the situation by yelling, screaming, throwing a temper tantrum, or crying out loud like a little child. Although sometimes crying as an adult may not necessarily be labeled as a regression, it's all the other acts that little children do.